The film begins by showing that in 1999, China was set to circulate a new currency, which drew the attention of many criminals, including a robber named Zhuang Zichang. On the day the new money was to be distributed, Zichang and his two younger siblings, Zhihao and Ming Yin, planned to rob the newly issued money. The three of them were in their respective positions, where Zichang was on the train carrying the money, Zhihao was at the destination station, and Ming Yin was waiting in the car to facilitate a quick getaway after the mission was accomplished. When the train reached the destination station, Zichang and the others immediately put on masks and began their operation, creating chaos at the station and taking down all the guards in the carriage carrying the new currency. After subduing all the guards, Zichang ordered one of the station officers to transfer all the boxes of money into the car that Ming Yin had prepared. Before the police arrived, the gang of robbers quickly fled, leaving a female station employee holding a grenade that eventually exploded when she accidentally dropped it. The scene shifts to a conflict between two gangster groups led by Lan Cheng and a senior gangster named Ming. At that time, Ming was upset with Lan Cheng for opening a gambling den in his territory without paying protection money to him. This led to a confrontation between the two gangster groups. In the midst of the clash, a police officer named Song Hai arrived with his partner, Zhen Yang, to arrest the gangsters. Not wanting to be caught by the police, the two gangster groups decided to join forces against the police officers. Song Hai then drew his pistol, causing the gangsters to freeze, allowing the two officers to easily arrest all the gangsters. After apprehending the troublesome gangsters, Song Hai and Zhen Yang returned to the police station, where they received a new assignment to investigate the robbery committed by Zichang and his group. Upon arriving at the crime scene, Song Hai began meticulously examining the area. Unlike the other police officers who couldn't identify the robbers due to the lack of eyewitnesses, Song Hai was able to determine the number of perpetrators and how the robbery had occurred just by examining the bullet holes at the scene. At that moment, Zhen Yang also found a pistol suspected to belong to the robbers. On the other hand, Zichang and his two younger siblings were pleased with their success in seizing the new currency. Zhihao intended to double their money at the gambling table, while Ming Yin planned to use her share for college to lead a normal life. At that moment, Zichang reminded Zhihao and Ming Yin that the police had officially locked down the city to facilitate the investigation of their robbery, so they needed to be cautious. Additionally, Zichang advised his siblings to use the new currency a year later, waiting for it to become more widespread among the public. The next day, Song Hai held a meeting with his subordinates to catch the robbers. Unfortunately, the police commander canceled the mission and ordered Song Hai to focus on monitoring the gangsters because the robbery case had been handed over to another division. Song Hai was unhappy with the decision, especially since he and his team were close to identifying the culprits. Despite this, Song Hai had no choice but to follow his superior's orders. Shortly after, the commander introduced a new female police officer named Chen Mei Hui who would be joining Song Hai's team. At that moment, Song Hai appeared displeased and reluctant to mentor the rookie member. That night, Zhihao recklessly went to Lan Cheng's gambling den, despite Zichang's warnings. At the same time, Song Hai, Zhen Yang, and Mei Hui were patrolling around Lan Cheng's gambling den. At that moment, Song Hai continued to be cold toward Mei Hui, and Zhen Yang asked him to treat Mei Hui better. Song Hai, however, remarked that Mei Hui wasn't suited to be a criminal division officer because she was a woman. Hearing this, Mei Hui was offended by Song Hai's comment, and he felt bad afterward. He then started to accept Mei Hui's presence by explaining the criminal division's duty to maintain control in areas dominated by gangsters. At the gambling den, Zhihao, who had run out of money, ended up borrowing a sum of money from Lan Cheng to continue gambling since he couldn't use the stolen money. Shortly after, Lan Cheng ordered his men to attack Ming's headquarters, reigniting the gang rivalry. Song Hai, who was aware of the situation, decided to test Mei Hui's ability to stop the fight. Despite Mei Hui asking the gangsters to stop fighting and showing her police badge, the gangsters ignored her. Therefore, Song Hai and his two colleagues decided to physically intervene and take down the gangsters. Unexpectedly, Mei Hui's martial arts skills were quite good, enabling her to apprehend the gang members involved in the brawl. At the same time, Zhihao became frustrated because he kept losing bets and accused Lan Cheng of rigging the game. Angered by the accusations, Lan Cheng ordered everyone to leave the gambling den except for Zhihao. At that moment, Lan Cheng threatened to kill Zhihao if he caused any trouble in his establishment. Unfortunately, Zhihao couldn't control his anger and tried to fight back. Consequently, Zhihao was captured by Lan Cheng's men, and he ordered them to search and confiscate Zhihao's belongings. During the search, Lan Cheng discovered a new, uncirculated banknote and realized that Zhihao was part of the gang that had robbed the new currency from the train station. Knowing this, Lan Cheng decided to take advantage of the situation and steal the money. Without hesitation, he used Zhihao's phone to call Zhichang, informing him that Zhihao had been kidnapped and demanding that Zhichang hand over some of the new currency if he wanted to save Zhihao. Upon receiving the news, Zhichang and Ming Yin immediately headed to the designated location to meet Lan Cheng. On their way, they encountered Song Hai and his team, who were busy arresting the gang members involved in the brawl. To avoid suspicion, Zhichang and Ming Yin acted normal and claimed they were just passing through, which led Song Hai to let them go. Shortly after, when they were a safe distance away from the police, Zhichang received a phone call from Lan Cheng, suddenly canceling their meeting and changing the location to Lan Cheng's house during the birthday celebration of his mother the next day. The next day, Lan Cheng held a birthday celebration for his mother and was surprised by the arrival of Ming, who brought a golden statue as a birthday gift for his mother. Ming's visit was not to seek revenge for Lan Cheng's earlier attack on his men, but rather to propose a collaboration to keep their illegal activities hidden from the police. Shortly after, Zhichang and Ming Yin arrived with the ransom money to rescue Zhihao. Before Lan Cheng would release Zhihao, he offered to protect Zhichang from the police, who were looking for the currency robbers, on the condition that he pay a protection fee to him. Zhichang refused the offer, but Ming Yin tried to calm her older brother and suggested that they accept the offer to evade the police. With Zhichang's approval, Ming Yin then went to get the money that Lan Cheng demanded. At the same time, Song Hai received information about Lan Cheng's birthday party for his mother. Song Hai knew that such events were usually used by gangsters to form alliances to cover up their illegal activities. Therefore, he asked Jin Yang and Mei Hui to quickly prepare for a raid at Lan Cheng's residence. Before the police arrived, Ming Yin returned to Lan Cheng's residence with the money, and she and Zhichang began an attack using firearms that Ming Yin had secretly brought. The police, upon learning of the gunfire, immediately sent armed forces to arrest everyone involved, while Zhichang and the others put on masks to conceal their identities. When Song Hai finally arrived at the scene, he asked Mei Hui to stand guard outside while he and Jin Yang would raid Lan Cheng and the gangsters. Inside the house, Lan Cheng was injured, having been shot in the arm, and was being pursued by Zhichang. Realizing there was another armed group, Song Hai ordered his team to chase after them. Zhichang and his group understood that they were now the target of a police manhunt, so they decided to flee in a car. After Zhichang and his group escaped, Song Hai was worried about Ming Yin, who was injured. At the same time, Song Hai was upset with Mei Hui for acting recklessly, which allowed Zhichang's group to evade the police. Feeling blamed, Mei Hui admitted that she had tried hard to stop Zhichang's group. After that, Song Hai walked away, trying to ignore Mei Hui's expressions of frustration. Jin Yang then approached Mei Hui to console her, saying that Song Hai actually cared about all his subordinates, but he didn't know how to show it. At the police station, the police commander gathered his team for an emergency meeting to discuss the similarities between the suspects in the Lan Cheng shooting case and the train station robbery. As the case became more complicated, the commander entrusted the mission to Song Hai, who was experienced. Meanwhile, Lan Cheng, who had escaped from Zhichang's pursuit, was hiding in a hotel. Unbeknownst to him, the police had also started sweeping the city to find Lan Cheng and Zhichang's group, who were on the run. In their ongoing investigation, Mei Hui obtained information that 3 suspicious individuals were staying in an apartment building. After checking it out, Mei Hui and her team found the new currency that had been stolen earlier. Switching to Zhichang and the others, they were seen burning the car they had used to erase any traces of their presence. Ming Yin was angry at Zhihao for causing trouble that led to them being discovered by the police. They couldn't return to the apartment to retrieve the rest of their stolen money. Zhichang, in his anger, even hit his younger brother before calming down and starting to think about how to resolve their problem. Zhichang then received information from an acquaintance that Lan Cheng was hiding in a hotel. Without hesitation, Zhichang and his 2 younger siblings hurried to the hotel to eliminate him. Shortly after, Song Hai and Jin Yang also arrived at the hotel to apprehend Lan Cheng. Zhichang and his siblings, aware of this, quickly put on masks and prepared to attack the police. Shortly after, a gunfight broke out between the police and Zhichang's team, but but Jichang and his two younger siblings managed to escape from the hotel. Unfortunately, Jinyang was killed in the shootout, which deeply affected Song Hai, who was devastated by the loss of his colleague and friend. On the other side, Jichang was also panicked to see Ming Yin incapacitated due to a gunshot wound. Therefore, Jichang ordered Jihao to speed up their car towards the hospital. But Ming Yin insisted that they go home instead because her admission to the hospital could make it easier for the police to track them all down. Ming Yin expressed that she didn't want them all to be captured by the police. Hearing his sister's request, Jichang decided to find a safe hideout. Upon reaching a hiding place, Jichang and Jihao began to plan how to take Ming Yin to the hospital because they didn't want to lose their sister. Unfortunately, Ming Yin, who had lost a lot of blood, took her last breath before her two brothers could get her to the hospital. Knowing this, Jichang wept over the death of his sister, while Jihao blamed himself for what had happened. The next day, Jichang and Jihao buried Ming Yin by the seaside, and to honor her memory, they decided to carry out one last robbery before they would live a normal life. As their sister had wished, if the robbery failed, the two vowed to follow Ming Yin into the afterlife. At the police station, Song Hai returned to work despite mourning the death of Jinyang. Determined to fulfill Zhun Yang's wish for him to continue fighting crime in their city, Song Hai, along with his team, held a meeting and predicted that Jichang would attempt another robbery. To be prepared, Song Hai ordered his team to tighten security by patrolling banks, jewelry stores, and other potential robbery targets of Jichang. At the same time, Jichang and Jihao were staking out a bank they planned to rob. Before robbing the bank, they intended to create a diversion by robbing a jewelry store. Back at the police station, Song Hai received reports about several simultaneous robberies and two suspicious men who had been surveilling a bank from a building across the street. Upon inspecting the roof of the building, Song Hai found several cigarette butts that he suspected were intentionally left by Jichang to mislead the police. Song Hai speculated that Jichang might rob a different location not anticipated by the police. As Song Hai had predicted, Jichang was explaining to his younger brother that they would not be robbing the bank, but rather a gold factory located quite a distance from the city center. If the police were misled by their decoy plan, their final heist would be successful. On the same day, the two brothers began scoping out the gold factory that was to be their target. Cleverly, they manipulated the factory manager by sabotaging the manager's car so that Jihao could pretend to help him and then persuade the manager to hire him at the factory. With Jihao being accepted as a new employee, their plan to rob the factory became much easier. After successfully getting close to the manager, Jichang and Jihao went to a firearms dealer to buy some weapons for the robbery. However, lacking sufficient funds, Jichang ordered Jihao to kill the arms dealer. They even set the arms dealer's car on fire to eliminate any evidence. The next day, Song Hai and his team discovered the location of Ming Yan's grave, where Song Hai found clues related to Jichang's plan to rob a gold factory. These clues were discovered from a newspaper clipping that was used to wrap flowers at the grave. Later, Song Hai also received a report from Mei Hui, who managed to identify Jichang and Jihao through a photo of Ming Yin from surveillance camera footage. Wasting no time, Song Hai and his team went to the gold factory to meet with the owner and asked them to cooperate in trapping Jichang and Jihao, who were now wanted by the police. After the factory owner agreed to his request, the police set up a watch around the factory on the day of Jichang's planned heist. Meanwhile, Jichang and his younger brother recruited another man for their final mission. With meticulous preparation, the three of them tried to mislead the police by pretending to rob a bank, but their plan failed because Song Hai had already anticipated Jichang's plan. On the other side, Song Hai continued to wait for Jichang and his team, who did not show up at the factory. Shortly afterward, the factory owner approached Song Hai and informed him that the factory had moved some of the gold to a safer location. Hearing this, Song Hai became upset with the factory owner because the gold transfer would make it easier for Jichang to rob the gold that was now in transit to another location. As Song Hai suspected, Jichang and his team had learned about the gold transfer from the factory manager, so they changed their robbery plan. Before starting the heist, they killed the manager and disposed of his body in a ravine to eliminate any witnesses to their robbery. Without wasting any time, Jichang and his team quickly pursued and stopped the vehicle carrying the gold. Unfortunately, just as they were about to transfer the gold into their car, Song Hai and his team arrived and surrounded them. After that, a shootout ensued, and Jihao, realizing that the robbery was doomed to fail, drove his car toward the police, who continued to shoot at him until he was killed. Zichang, also intent on sacrificing himself, decided to kill the remaining police officers and lured Song Hai into chasing him as he drove his car to another location. During the high-speed chase, Zichang crashed into an empty warehouse where he and Song Hai fought until Zichang was overpowered, and Song Hai successfully apprehended the robber. At the end of the film, the court sentenced Zichang to death for robbery. After the case was closed, Song Hai and Mei Hui visited Zhun Yang's grave to pay their respects to their fallen team member. At that moment, Song Hai acknowledged that Mei Hui had worked hard and had the potential to become a great police officer. Moral lesson from the story: if you plan to rob a train with your siblings, at least make sure they know how to behave at a gambling den. Also, if you end up in a shootout with the police, bring a cake. Everyone loves cake.